There is a line no defendant should ever cross in a courtroom, an invisible boundary that separates poor judgment from criminal contempt. Once that line is crossed, there is no apology that can fully undo it, no explanation that can erase what has been said. I have seen angry defendants shout. I have heard threats from people who believed they were powerful, but I had never seen anyone cross that line the way Barron Trump did. It happened on a Thursday afternoon. Barron Trump stood in my courtroom, looked me directly in the eye, and threatened me with White House connections, while his father was still the sitting president of the United States. I have been on the bench long enough to recognize empty bluster, defendants promising revenge, claiming they know people, insisting I will regret my rulings. Most of it is noise, fear, talking through anger. But this was not that. This was different in a way that made the room feel colder the moment the words left his mouth. Barron Trump was 18 years old, the son of the President of the United States, surrounded by Secret Service agents, backed, whether explicitly stated or not, by the full weight of the executive branch. And he was telling me that if I did not dismiss his charges, his father would make phone calls and I would regret it. That is not bravado. That is a threat to the judiciary itself. The case before me had begun like many others, at least on paper. Barron was being tried as an adult and stood accused of assault, destruction of property, and underage drinking. According to police reports and witness statements, the incident occurred at a house party in Providence, hosted by a Brown University student whose parents were major donors to the Trump campaign. Alcohol was flowing freely. The party was crowded. At some point, another guest, Michael Chen, a 19-year-old Brown sophomore, accidentally spilled a drink on Barron's designer jacket. A few drops, nothing more. Michael apologized immediately. What should have ended there did not. Barron punched him in the face, breaking his nose. When Michael tried to record what had happened, frightened and bleeding, Barron grabbed his laptop and threw it against the wall, destroying it completely. The laptop contained Michael's schoolwork, his projects, months of effort wiped out in seconds. Witnesses described Barron yelling about money, status, and power, about how much the jacket cost, about how no one could touch him. Those facts alone made the charges serious. But what transformed this case into something unprecedented was not the assault itself. It was what happened after I denied his attorney's motion to dismiss. Barron stood up. He brushed off his attorney's hand when they tried to stop him. He did not look nervous. He did not look afraid. He looked confident, certain that what he was about to say would work the way it always had. He told me his father was the president, that presidential power could make or break people, that judges could be picked and removed, and that I needed to understand who I was dealing with. In that moment, I realized this was no longer just a criminal case. It was a direct challenge to judicial independence, a test of whether the courtroom would remain a place governed by law or become another room where power speaks louder than justice. And I understood that whatever happened next would not just affect one defendant. It would define whether the line that protects our democracy still mattered at all. When Barron finished speaking, the courtroom went completely silent, not the ordinary quiet that follows a heated exchange, but the kind of silence where everyone understands that something irreversible has just happened. I could feel dozens of eyes shifting between Barron, his attorneys, the Secret Service agents, and me, waiting to see whether the threat had landed. I kept my voice calm, deliberately so. Before we address your criminal charges, I said, we need to address what you just did. You stood in my courtroom and threatened me with presidential retaliation if I do not dismiss your case. Do you understand the seriousness of what you just said? Barron stood there, all 6'7" of teenage arrogance, shoulders back, chin raised. He did not hesitate. He did not retreat. Your Honor, I am not threatening you, he said. I am stating facts. My father is the President of the United States. He is the most powerful man in the world. He protects his family. You are deciding right now whether you want to be someone he protects or someone he does not. That was the moment I knew he truly believed it. Not just believed it, but had been taught it. His lead attorney, Theodore Lawson, jumped to his feet immediately, panic flashing across his face. Your Honor, my client is 18 years old and speaking under extreme stress. He did not mean it, he began. I cut him off. Counselor, your client meant exactly what he said. He just threatened a sitting judge with presidential retaliation in open court, on the record. Sit down. I turned back to Barron. Mr. Trump, I'm going to give you one opportunity, to retract that statement and apologize to this court. If you do so now, we will proceed with your criminal case in the ordinary course. If you do not, I will hold you in contempt and will add witness intimidation and obstruction of justice to your charges. I watched his attorneys silently beg him to stop. They shook their heads. One of them mouthed the word apologize. The room held its breath. Barron looked at them. Then he looked back at me. I am not apologizing, he said. You heard me correctly. And then he went further. He told me his father runs this country, that his father picks judges and can remove them. He reminded me I was an elected municipal judge in Providence, Rhode Island. He asked if I really thought I mattered, if I really thought I could touch him. Then he issued an ultimatum. Dismiss the charges, he said, and he would walk out of the courtroom and we would all forget this ever happened. If not, his father would pick up the phone. The courtroom erupted. Reporters began typing furiously. Barron's attorneys put their heads in their hands. Secret Service agents started speaking urgently into their radios, clearly unprepared for this kind of moment. This was not a security issue. This was a constitutional one. I sat there absorbing what had just occurred. A sitting president's son had openly threatened a judge with executive retaliation, not behind closed doors, not through intermediaries, but in open court, on the record. This was no longer about an assault at a party. This was about whether the judiciary could function independently when directly confronted by presidential power, about whether intimidation would succeed simply because of who delivered it. I stood up slowly, not because I was angry, but because the moment demanded clarity. When a courtroom reaches a point where the rule of law itself is being tested, hesitation becomes its own kind of failure. Officer D'Angelo, I said, place Mr. Trump under arrest immediately.